Okay, you faxed, you phoned, you emailed, you called, and guess what? The Impaler is back in the house.
That's right, welcome to Two Guys Garage. We've got Brian's 61 Chevrolet Impala. It's got some really sick work since the last time we've seen it.
We're about 1.5 years in at this point. We've got some really killer Kinsler fuel injection that's going in and some bodywork tips, so stay tuned.
Doesn't look quite like a stock front end anymore.
Yeah, since last time we've got our 62 front bumper on a 61. We've narrowed it a little bit, kind of cut it here, we've cut it here, we've changed the angles in order to match from a 61 to 62. We added a Spectra intake here so it looks kind of vintage race car.
It's almost like the old Ford Thunderbolt, you know, the air intakes they used to run on those.
Gives a nice beefy look out front.
Yeah.
Put a tank in here and moving into the whoa, no, can't show you that yet. We got something more coming.
Teaser.
Now, we spent a lot of time, months and months and months, on the interior, and we've made like our own sill plates and really trying to, you know, conceal the cage nicely and give it kind of this raw race car look.
Yeah, I mean, there's just an insane amount of metalwork in here with a lot of detail, a lot of shapes and contours. And like you said, there's a roll cage hidden inside this car that you don't even see. You know, you've just blended everything in and shaped it so nice. It's really awesome.
Yeah, and just for example, like even this, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but we actually did about 12, 15 test panels to make sure that the stretch is right, because that's a lot of stretch to get, you know, 3/4 of an inch.
Draw in there.
And we needed all that to get the speaker up and be able to clear the roll bar down inside. We made our own rear seat. We actually just take foam and aluminum and we cut it, glued it, grind it, you know, whatever, and shape that in. Now, if you look into the seats, I'll show you how the seat works. This is kind of cool. In order to get to the rear seat, we use an aircraft latch right here, as you can see. Made our own stainless piece for the back here. Pop that in.
Nice little jumper style, you know?
And it's mechanical. There's really nothing to break. And we actually made our own steering wheel.
Nice. They even got the core sand on there.
Yeah.
Ready to get polished up.
Yeah, so we've cast this out of aluminum. Obviously, we still got some finish work, but it just kind of shows you the detail we tried to go and really make this a cool handmade car that hopefully people like.
Well, you can see the fun you've put in everywhere. You know, things like just the cool latches and handles, and I like this guy. What'd that come off
That's
of?
off aircraft landing gear too.
Nice, a little authenticity.
So we did a lot of digging in the aircraft junkyard, and the owner of the car is an airline consultant, so it kind of fits in with his hobbies and his interests. So.
Oh, that's perfect. So what do we got going on today?
Rear bumper. This is the stock rear bumper. We've narrowed it, cut it in the center. We've made our own pan that kind of blends into. We got a flipper off a different car that was yellow, of course. And our latch is in here, just in case you need to get in. We made our own trunk panels.
That looks nice.
And gas tank is down there, 30-gallon tank. Now, what we're going to kind of show you today is doing a little bit of body work. And as you can see, we're getting to that point. Most of the bodies kind of fit about where it's going to be. And it's time to start doing a little bit of filler work. Now here, this is a place where there's a double wall behind it. You can't get behind it, put in a new panel, and have easy access. All these pecker marks are from somebody else when they were going in and doing an old repair. So what we're going to do is kind of blend this out, do a little filler work, and just kind of show you a few tips on how we do that to make it look nice and smooth at the end.
Cool, man. This thing's looking pretty good. Let's see if we can make it look a little better.
All right, we've done our DA with 80. We're feather edging out, trying to really smooth out those layers, get an etch for the filler to lock into, get it good and clean. Now we've blown out the holes, want to make sure there isn't any debris like in little holes and crevices and whatnot. Go back in with a nice wax grease remover to get any kind of that type of contaminant out. Once you're at that point, you're pretty much ready for some filler. So Byrd's mixing that up. We'll be ready to rock.
Yeah, now you got two options. You've got your standard plastic filler, sort of a talc based. It's it's a little heavier and thicker to work with, but it's nice and soft, so you can work it off pretty quick with, like a cheese grater or your sandpaper. Now it's a two-part mix, so depending on temperature and the directions that come with your particular brand, get yourself a nice couple beads, and you're going to start mixing that up. As soon as it starts to basically mix, it's going to catalyze, it's going to start getting hard, so you don't want to play around with it for too long. Now you can use something called a glaze. Now a glaze you'll use probably after you've worked you know, some of the filler in this plastic filler. It's thinner, it's a polyester, kind of like resin when you're working with fiberglass. But it's good for filling in those pinholes where this is just a little more bulky and can't quite get in those really tiny scratches and things like that. Let me get this nice and mixed up so I get a good uniform color.
Okay, we've got this spread looking good. Try to get some of these pinholes in. Now the first thing I like to do is get in with that first coat, really push it in well. What you're doing is getting in all those little crevices, making sure you're gonna have good adhesion, get inside all of it. That's gonna be kind of your first step. Then what I like to do is come back. Now you're gonna kind of get the meat of your actual fill. Starting with less fill out to where the edge is, where you've done your feather edging, working your way in, and just get it spread even. There's no real like perfect scenario here. Obviously, you're just trying to put in as the least amount possible. Keep your pinholes down to a minimum. Get this kind of spread in. So I'm gonna let this dry for about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll be ready for the cheese grater. Okay, I'm sanding with 36 grit, and we've already previously done a cheese grating just to knock off the high edges. Now you don't want to go too far with that because you can end up digging grooves in that you're gonna have to fill later. Now what I'm trying to do is use a crosshatch pattern, back and forth with a nice block. And you want to go from a thin area here where you're feather edging, because that's the thinnest amount of filler, and work your way in, gradually getting yourself into where the most of your damage is going to be and where there's going to be more filler. So now I've got the flat areas kind of roughed in. I'm going to need kind of a round block. You got something back there for this inside
I got round.
curve?
We got more rounded.
That'll do.
We've got every shape you can think of. I'm playing around with Brian's little box of goodies here. And you know, you got your standard sanding block, but you got ways to be creative. You know, different objects, shapes, whether they're you know, wooden and hard or they got a little bit of compliance to them. But you know, my favorite one digging around is the phone book.
That is a good one. Now that actually works, man. Like 37 Ford or VW or these big round fenders, a Porsche. Put a whole piece of sandpaper on there. You can really get it.
Oh, you can get it to shape kind of the way you want it. Yeah,
Hey,
it makes sense. I like
whatever
it.
works. What? Hey, that's your either phone.
I got text.
Nice ringer.
Hey, back off. All right, man, we got some cool parts that just showed up. So let me go pick those up, and when we come back, we're gonna do some really hot stuff under the hood, little fuel injection action, so stick around.
This segment of Two Guys Garage is brought to you by iBrakeParts.com. For all of your braking needs, look to iBrakeParts.com, your online stopping destination.
Welcome back. Wow, 650 horse, 572 crate motor. Now we got the cover on it. It's obviously the intake's off. We don't want to get that thing dirty, and the owner, luckily, has decided to step it up to
all the way up. Not to here or here.
Cross ram fuel injection manifold. Look at that baby.
Yeah, now this is the jalapeno of hot fuel injection setups, man.
Yeah, you got that right. Now Kinsler they're a company that can make you any custom intake manifolds you want. What we ordered was, we've got a few issues. One, we want high horsepower.
Yes.
We want high torque.
Yeah, that's key.
But we've got a hood that we don't want to modify. The owner wants to keep the hood clearance down. It's a perfect hood, keep it as is. And the great thing about this cross ram is it keeps it nice and low.
You don't want to just carve out a nice little
Yeah,
rectangle?
you call them. No.
Okay.
And so the cross ram, it keeps it nice and low. As you can see, keeps it tucked in, and we'll be able to shut our hood as is with this baby, which is nice.
Yeah, and you still got a nice straight shot right into that intake valve, right into that cylinder. And you've got the same velocity stack that's going to give you good flow with the tunability that comes with individual runners and adjustable, removable stacks. So now we can change these, change the length for package if you need to, or tuning for ultimate performance.
Yep. And another thing they've done for us is on top, normally the fuel rail would be on top. Well, they've hidden it for us, brought it underneath, and on the bottom, they've hidden the injectors, hidden the rail, and that way we'll get a nice, clean, nasty appearance on the top. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, now these guys, they do custom intakes, but they also do the entire system. So if you want a controller, you know, all your injectors, everything you need to bolt on a complete fuel system for your car, whether it's, you know, the EFI that we all know that's real friendly, or if you want to go old school or racing, you know, mechanical fuel injection.
Yeah, a lot of guys in sprint cars, marine boats, drag race, all kinds of guys use these. use these setups.
Yeah, now they got all kinds of applications. You know, they'll match pretty much any cylinder head or engine that you've got out there running, whether you're racing or on the street. Now this is the same big block style, but this is the vertical one. This is pretty much to complement an all-out race engine.
Dude, how cool would that look coming out of the Nova?
God, this thing is pretty sick. Check out some of the work on here. Now look at these CNC ports. Everything on this thing is CNC machined.
Smooth action too.
Yeah, and as Brian's playing around with these linkages, I mean, these guys are total artists when it comes to mechanisms. You feel the action on this thing, and I mean, it is just butter smooth. Nice and crisp.
Yep, in the back, it's your throttle position sensor. We've got that built into the back, so they'll be nice and hidden.
Yeah. Now this is for your LS series of engines. So they've got LS1 and LS7 style of intakes. This is the bad boy right here. Obviously, you've got an aluminum base with your carbon fiber runners, which just looks hot.
Yeah, and look how cool this linkage is.
Yeah.
Look how bad that is.
Yeah, absolutely.
I bet you could take that sucker home, couldn't you?
Yeah, that would
Better
go
keep
real
an eye on
nice. Yeah. This might fit in my luggage.
Yeah.
In
Now
my
let's
little
say
bag.
you see that it's straight intakes right now for race application. Let's say if you're on the street, you want to put a screen on. You can get little screens for them that'll keep some debris out from day-to-day action.
Yeah, so there's nothing non-streetable about these. I mean, this is a race setup, but everything about it is meant to be drivable. It's going to give you crisp throttle response. It's going to give you all the benefits of fuel injection that we know of today. And you know, with a few items like being able to run your screens to go to a racetrack, pop them off and go run down the quarter mile or go race your buddy on, you know, a road course, this is the hot setup to have.
Well, electronic injection, obviously, be able to tune it perfectly exactly where you want it.
Yeah, so you guys stick around. When we come back, we're going to install that bad boy over there in Brian's car, and I'll show you a few tips on how to set one of these up for yourself.
My plastic bumper's really damaged from parallel parking on city streets. Is there something I can do myself without taking it to the body shop? Plastic bumpers don't stand up very well to the rigors of parallel parking. All the back and forth bumping can leave dents, scratches, and holes. But you can actually repair it yourself with 3M's Bondo Bumper Repair Syringe Kit. Just sand down the area, fill it in with the Bondo syringe, and let the filler dry. Sand again and use touch-up paint to cover the area. Your damage will be gone, and you'll have enough money left over to park with the valet. This tip is brought to you by 3M Car Care, performance-driven solutions.
Hey, welcome back. We're going to go through some really cool features about an individual runner style manifold. Now, you may look at this one and think, God, why did they change all the heights on these things? Is it just to look cool? But it actually serves some function. So let's talk about why you would want to change lengths on an intake like this. Now, if we go here, I got a little diagram. You know, this is my whole intake track. So this would be your bell mouse, like you see, my port going into my cylinder. Well, this piston is moving down when the valve's shut on the intake stroke. There's a lot of vacuum under there. And when that valve opens, there's a huge rush of air. This is a big mass. A slug comes bouncing in here, and it starts to create an oscillation. So it's filling the cylinder, but this pressure wave is going back and forth. And depending on the RPM and the length of this runner, I can time it so that pressure wave comes crashing in here, boom, fills that cylinder, it gives it an extra shot, higher volumetric efficiency. It's going to give me more power. I mean, think about it. You're surfing on a wave, you want to catch that wave, but that wave pulls back, you might be on the negative end. So if I draw a normal power curve, let's say this is just a generic power curve here. Now, this positive wave, I might get a tuning point up here, but I might get sort of a negative point down here. So on an intake like this, maybe I take half the cylinders and I try to fill this in, and I'll sacrifice a little bit of that, and I'll start to balance things out. Or I can just make them longer and shorter and move the peaks, you know, left and right. So it's a great way to tune, you know, a race application or even a street application. Now, there's another little interesting, you know, feature about an IRM is you've got a pulse happening under each one of these throttles, and they're not connected like you would on a normal intake, you know, with a single throttle body. Let's say my throttle's here. I've got a high pressure pulse as this thing is going through, you know, various modes. It's going to make whatever signal, like for, let's say, a MAP, a manifold absolute pressure signal for my fuel injection, it's going to give this a very erratic signal, and it's going to be hard to tune. But if I can connect them all, I can kind of make an average. So that's what I've got here. I've got sort of a communication point. This port connects each one of these, on this bank underneath the throttle. So now I can kind of blend a lot of that crazy signal, and my fuel injection is going to run a whole lot better. Now, Brian mentioned we've got the injectors underneath, so we don't have a place to run these communication ports, but I can run these little fittings. Now, these little fittings are underneath, each one of these throttles with a little bit of nylon tubing. I can connect them all into a sort of a little manifold. Now I can pull my signal. So a really cool way of running a really awesome setup, but doing it on the street and making it run great. So let me get Brian's help. I think it's time to put this guy mounted up and install it.
How can I protect the valves in my classic car now that all gasoline is unleaded? We'll have the answer after the break. How can I protect the valves in my classic car now that all gasoline is unleaded? Carbon and deposit buildups can rob you of performance in your engine. Z-Max will reduce valve stem deposits that cause valve guide and valve stem wear. That's because Z-Max soaks into the metal, with its micro-lubrication process breaking down the carbon as you drive. So keep that classic car on the road with Z-Max. This tip is brought to you by Z-Max. Performance you can feel.
All right, welcome to the break room. We got cool parts galore.
Yeah, we've got pretty much the holy grail of pedal assemblies today.
Now look at this thing from Clayton Machine Works. It's actually, they're called their muscle pedals, and they're a CNC machine from solid billet.
Yeah, so you can put a lot of muscle in them, and they're going to be sturdy, and they're going to look cool.
Now these are available for both first, second generation Camaros, Firebirds, Novas.
Chevelles, even the Tri-5 Chevys, some Mopars, and even Mustangs. So
Yeah, and they've even got some applications for either standard transmission, which this is, automatic transmission, so obviously they'll dump the clutch pedal, one bigger pedal on those, and they've also got some throttle-by-wire applications too. So
very, very cool trick pedals. The muscle pedals from Clayton Machine Works.
all right, next one we got up is from Stage 8 locking fasteners, and we've showed you a lot of locking fasteners from Stage 8. These are for Dana applications for the front locking nut on the spindle, where you've got a 4x4 application.
Yep, so these are Dana 30s, 35s, 44s, 60s, and 70s, and even for the floating, the full floater 60s.
Now these are made in USA. They've got a spring steel snap ring that goes into the top. You'll be able to do a preload, set your nice preload there at the beginning, and it'll maintain that. They've got 450 pounds of reverse load, so you know they're going to be super strong for rock crawlers, etc.
Yeah, and the materials are great. They're high quality manufactured, 4130 steel, NC machined, heat treated, hardened all the way through. I mean, they're really going to keep your truck, together out there in the woods, make sure that nothing comes apart on you.
Yep, Stage 8 locking fasteners. They got all kinds of stuff on their website, so check it out for your application. All right, next thing we got up from LMC Truck. Now these are their clear Euro style headlights.
Yeah, great way to, bump up, the illumination, the light you're going to get out of your truck, and to make them look cool.
Yeah, they got a clear face. You can see they got a reverse facing light. Now you also need to be sure you get the harness. This harness, because of the amps that these things draw, you need to hook up this harness straight to your battery. Don't just plug it right in. Make sure you get that piece from LMC Truck as well.
Yeah, great way to pop things up in your truck. Give yourself a little bit more light, see down the road, and make it look cool.
So be sure you get your free LMC Truck catalog. They got all kinds of Ford, GM, Dodge pickup applications, and you get that free from their website. All right, next thing we got up is from Strutmaster.
Yeah, now these guys make great, air ride to non-air ride conversions, because the air rides are just expensive to go replace. So, your truck or SUV wears out, you're going to spend some big bucks. These guys have a great alternative, great designs. This is for the 2003 to 2005 Lincoln Navigator.
Yeah, and they're always leaking. You're going to have an air down in your thing. These have a lifetime warranty. They're really easy to replace. And there's no way you want to spend all that kind of money on a factory replacement when you can get one of these. You know it's going to last, and it's going to be a really great conversion for your car.
You get all the instructions with them, and they're designed to pretty much ride just like the factory ones.
Yep,
So it's
from
great.
Strutmaster. So, all right, back to work. Got to get back on it.
All right, there it is. Work again. Here we go.
For more information about anything you've seen on today's show, check out speedtv.com or visit TwoGuysGarage.com.
Welcome back. All right, now it's time for the payoff. The last 2 tubes going into place. Oh,
Yeah.
There,
That
was
is pretty
sweet.
mean, pretty mean.
Now we
Cool.
checked the hood clearance already, and it's by a wisp of about a ½ inch.
Nice.
So we're good.
Yeah, this is a perfect stage, you know, because we're in the mock-up and build. We can go through and make sure we've got clearances to everything, how we're going to route, where we're going to run our fuel lines, crossovers, you know, fuel regulators. You can see we're a little bit tight to the firewall, so make some modifications, but that's part of doing a good build.
Yeah, we changed from a throttle body injection to this. You know, anytime you make a change midstream, you know, that's where we may end up with a little clearance. But actually, considering, it fits awesome.
Yeah, now we can talk about, you know, even things like dressing up. Now, ARP makes fantastic looking fasteners, and just that little bit of pop everywhere on your engine compartment, you know, really makes the difference. So we got our intake bolts, you know, we can do our valve covers.
Yep.
Yeah, they make great head studs, all that stuff. And you know, when you get done, when we get ready to fire this thing up, you know, there's a cool little tool. It's a Unison. It's basically a little flow meter. Now these are set up from Kinsler, so they're ready to go right out of the box. Let's say you got a system and you've messed with the butterflies a little bit, you know, maybe wanted to paint it, you know, putting it back together. You know, for a low throttle angle, like on idle, a little bit of adjustment might make one cylinder, you know, breathe a little bit better than the other. So take a flow meter, and you can basically fit it on one at a time. You know, and this little guy right here will go up and down, and you'll dial in one, make the other one dial in just like it. You'll go all the way around, and then your engine's going to be running nice and smooth.
Yeah, they've actually been making this big block cross ram manifold since 1971, which is the same as the year I was born.
I think they got it figured out.
Yeah, they probably have it dialed by now. Hopefully you learned something about doing body work today.
And a little bit about cross-ram fuel injection, how to tune an engine.
Yo.
Ooh, nice one.
Mom,
Hey, we're out of
I told
time.
you.
We'll see you guys next week.
I'm filming. Gosh.